I mean, the European Union won't take chicken from America. They won't take lobsters from America. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
It's President Trump at the Rose Garden at the White House. It looks like he is preparing to perhaps sign this executive order tied to this very sweeping policy that was just announced. What he called, quote, kind reciprocal tariffs, a baseline 10% tariff across the board on countries with the 60 worst offenders, tiered structure. So China, for example, including tariffs, currency manipulation, and trade barriers, charging a, quote, discounted 34% tariff. Layer that on top of a 20% existing tariff, you get to 54%. EU, 20%. Vietnam, 46%. Taiwan, 32%. We can go down the list here. Fentanyl tariffs on Canada and Mexico staying in place, with the exception of USMCA-compliant goods, and all of this going into effect at midnight tonight.
And the market reaction after hours, I've never seen anything like it. This, I think fair to say, is worse than the worst-case scenario of the tariffs that many in the market expected the president to impose. You laid out a number of the percentages there, and there's some question of how the administration calculated the percentages that they're responding to in each of these cases. Are they adding in value-added taxes? He talked about, non-tariff barriers as well. So I think while many were hoping that this would eliminate uncertainty, there's going to be more uncertainty in the market, and from those watching policy tomorrow on, well, if countries push back on how these non-tariff barriers were calculated, will there be wiggle room here? Exactly when do these go into effect? How quickly are companies going to have to adjust their pricing? So many questions.
Heavy trading here in overtime after hours, including in the ETFs that
Trump tariffs are going to raise costs on everyday Americans in an environment where there's already a high cost of living. Trump promised that he would lower costs, in fact, on day one, but what we've seen under his reckless leadership is that costs aren't going down in America. They're going up. Inflation is going up. The stock market is going down. Consumer confidence is going down. And the retirement security of the American people is going down. This is not Liberation Day in America. It's Recession Day, because Donald Trump's reckless policies are driving us toward a painful recession.
Do you think that this is in any way just a negotiation tactic that, essentially we heard from the Treasury Secretary, his advice to countries, all the countries of the world, essentially is sit back, relax, and take this, and just let's see how, just take it for a while, take it in, and, just breathe deep?
They seem to want other countries in the world to behave like House and Senate Republicans who have just sitting back and taken it, orders from Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Not my expectation that you're going to see countries around the world do that. And it's unfortunate, because there is an opportunity to work together in a manner that is designed to improve the economy. Listen, on the campaign trail, Donald Trump promised pretty much every day that he was on the campaign trail that he's going to lower the high cost of living in America. America right now is too expensive for everyday Americans, for hardworking American taxpayers, for young people. We have to do better. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we should not have a situation where people are struggling to live day to day, paycheck to paycheck, can't get ahead, and can barely get by. But what Donald Trump is doing through his mismanagement of the economy is actually making things worse when he promised to make things better.
The Senate.
I don't know. You almost have to be an amateur psychologist on this. It's like Trump is stuck in the 80s. His music, his clothing, his thinking. He has been on this tariff thing forever, and every economist, conservative or liberal, will tell you they just simply don't work. We use them strategically, but he doesn't fundamentally understand how trade works. It goes back to what I continue to say. I think the biggest myth perpetuated on this country is that Donald Trump understands anything about business. He's bankrupt every single one he's been into, and now he's bankrupting this country. So I appreciate you talking about this. This is a tax on working people that we've not seen in any of our lifetimes, and it is going to have dramatic effect.
There are two follow-ups I want on that.
Summer, I was you know, on the anniversary of the D-Day invasion, and to see those graves while you go to the American cemetery, the French cemetery, Canadians, Australians, all of these people that he says are ripping us off, the Danes, it's an outrageous affront to folks who share our values on democracy, and for him to mock them and to say this about Canada, that they're nasty people. I don't, the thing I think that starts to have to set in, and I would argue that what happened in Wisconsin is that there's buyer's remorse on this, and nobody signed up for this. Nobody signed up to insult the Canadians and drive up potash prices. Nobody expected to see tariffs that were just randomly thrown on that are going to punish, especially middle-class Americans. So no, your question is right. But look, I don't think this guy listens to anyone other than himself, and he's convinced this is going to work. But my beef still comes to this. There are senators that need to stand up and say something on the Republican side. But look, my beef on this is that this guy is out there crying about his portfolio and about stock while I'm making, you know, a comment. And my mom's Social Security check this month is late. That he's attacking the portfolios of working Minnesotans and working Americans who've paid into these programs that he calls a Ponzi scheme. He's taking it and laughing with his chainsaw about destroying the lives and undermining things and institutions that make life better for Minnesotans. Of course he doesn't care about these agencies because he has all this money. Can you imagine being the richest man in the world and taking offense that I said something about Tesla stock? Look, if I'm Donald Trump won Wisconsin. I'll give him that. But he's sharing his presidency and the White House and who knows what else with this guy who's a loser, who lost. This guy's really bad at this. He made the case that everything hinged on this.
Senator Rand Paul said that the tariffs could cause a recession and have a major political impact. Watch.
Tariffs have also led to political decimation. When McKinley most famously put tariffs on in 1890, they lost 50% of their seats in the next election. When Hot Smoothie put on their tariff in the early 1930s, we lost the House and the Senate for 60 years. So they're not only bad economically, they're bad politically.
Your response to that?
Look, the fact is that President Trump has been saying that he supports tariffs because he has the intuition of what we talked about, how those incomes are not gaining because we're losing the jobs abroad. He's been saying that for 40 years, and he just won a landslide election, really, in the U.S. So it's the idea that it's bad politics for tariffs. Well, the voters who voted for Trump should have heard that. And the bottom line is the reason it's good politics is people know what happened to their communities, just like you remember what it was like when we were growing up. And President Trump is going to fix it with this policy. It is absolutely an incredible day in the history of American economic history because we're finally stopping the trade war. It's not we're starting a trade war, we're stopping the trade war because we're going to once again build everything here in the U.S.
And the way
we showed the markets before, but if you saw the post-market reaction, it was kind of down across the board. You know, people are looking at their 401ks and they worry about it. What do you say to them tonight?
Brett, I say that what we are doing is we're setting the stage for long-term economic growth, that we were on our way to a financial crisis. You know, I used to teach a history of financial crises, and with that gigantic government spending, it was unsustainable. You look back in 1998, you look back in 2007, right before it looked great, everything collapsed. So, I mean, it looked great right before everything collapsed. So we have taken us off that trajectory, and we are putting ourselves back onto a sound trajectory.
You said 10% over 10 years would be $2.5 trillion coming in. You know, you look at this list of all these countries, and there's some policy decisions here. China is at 34%, added to the 20% already, so that's 54% on Chinese goods.
Yes.
Are they going to come back with something big?
Well, we'll see what they do. Is my advice to every country right now is do not retaliate, sit back, take it in, let's see how it goes, because if you retaliate, there will be escalation. If you don't retaliate, this is the high water mark.
Chilly here, and put my hoodie on. The tragic comedy that is Trump's tariff tantrum, the global meltdown edition. This spectacle of economic tragedy is akin to playing, I think, Jenga with the global economy. Unfolds with the finesse of it's the finesse of a bull in a china shop. First up, we have Canada and Australia, who are kind of caught in the tariff crossfire. just imagine the horror as Canadian maple syrup producers and Australian kangaroo cuddlers uniting their disdain for Trump's economic BS or broadsides. Australia is already battling from being China's biggest supplier turned scapegoat, now finds itself ducking economic shrapnel from Uncle Sam's misguided missiles. It is April the 2nd, and Washington, in America, it's a ghost town because Republicans are dodging interviews like they're avoiding calls from their exes at 2 in the morning. The reason? Well, they're frantically trying to shield their states and their careers from the economic storm of Trump's tariffs. They're whipping up some crazy situations. Picture this, Senator whatever on Capitol Hill, sweat on their brow as they try to protect Kansas wheat fields from becoming financial dust bowls. And that's not just some crazy one-liner. I think only Fox News seem to be happy. They're selling this as a Liberation Day, while the rest of the world is preparing for economic Armageddon. And the markets, well, even while Trump was announcing, a bit like a MAGA rally, they were jittery as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. The Dow was taking nosedives, investors were scrambling for cover, and we're not even on April the 3rd. There's more. The global backlash is actually so fiery, even Trump's own team can't keep their stories straight. 1 minute, it's tariffs for all, and the next it's, whoops, just kidding. Their mixed messages, well, so vigorously, you'd think they were like, I don't know, trying to get a job in a bar or a bartender gig. It's really quite serious. But there they were, slapping their backs on the White House lawn. And as for the international response, it's Canada, oh, they're slapping tariffs right back on US goods. They're targeting everything from Florida oranges to Pennsylvania steel. To me, it's kind of like watching a game of table tennis or ping pong, where every volley is a new tariff and every point scored is a blow to, well, consumers' wallets, which is me and you and everybody you know. We're the ones that are being affected by it. As we brace for April the 3rd and the rest of the month, remember, it's not just a date on a calendar that Trump was calling Liberation Day and decided to play economic roulette with the world as his casino. And in this game, there are no winners, just millions of puzzled spectators going, what's going on here? I mean, it's a really absurd tragedy. It could be considered by any sane person would say, this is ludicrous. I'm not going to say tune in and stock up on popcorn or watch as the drama unfolds. This is worse. It's going to be like a bumpy ride which is so unpredictable for your wallet, bank account, pocket, wherever you keep your shekels. And the saddest thing about all of this is what really gets to me, is the commentators you see on your cable news screens, those who've given Elon their money to get a blue tick, they don't care. It's almost like, how is it possible that they are so disconnected from those who really do not need this, who really will be affected by this? I mean, there was somebody on Fox almost like, suck it up and deal with the pain. You're going broke, tough.
Makes its way across the Indian Ocean and washes up there. The 2 islands of the Keeling Islands that are inhabited, out of the 27 islands there, those 2 inhabited islands have a total population of 593 people. Well, Donald Trump just declared trade war on the Keeling Islands. All 593 Keeling Islanders will now be hit with an American government 10% tariff that will apply to, anything they might ever want to export here to us. Make it here, Keeling Islands, if you're going to make it. May I introduce you to Jan Mayen Island. It is a volcano, a volcanic island mostly covered in glaciers, hundreds of miles from anything else in the Arctic Ocean. Jan Mayen, I think that's how you say it. It does have an airstrip, but nobody lives there. Population 0 humans, many polar bears. That said, rest assured, we, the American people, are now protected from the predatory economic piracy of that uninhabited island. Thanks to our genius strongman ruler who has put the American government to work, Donald Trump has just slapped a 10% tariff on Jan Mayen Island, just in case anyone ever moves up there and tries to screw us over with their Jan Mayen Island underpriced exports and stuff. On the other end of the world, there's Heard, H-E-A-R-D, Heard Island, and also McDonald Island. They're in Antarctica. They are only reachable by boat, and it takes 2 weeks by sea to get there from Australia. Heard and, what's the other one? McDonald Island, sorry. Heard and McDonald Island, I know I don't have to apologize. I'm not offending anybody. They're totally uninhabited. Both of them. They're also active volcanoes. So even if you wanted to move there, even the penguins might caution you, right? But they're active volcanoes, one on each island, on both Heard and McDonald Islands. I will say those volcanoes and the penguins and seals who live there, they will never menace the American economy again as they have in the past by flooding us with their cheap exports of what, like fresh air, cool breezes? A waft of eau de penguin? I don't know. What do they send us? The uninhabited Antarctic volcanoes of Heard and McDonald Islands were just slapped by Donald Trump today with a steep 10% tariff. Are you tired of all the winning, America? Can you just feel the practical economic benefits that MAGA leadership is bringing to us at last? Isn't it a
the argument of short-term pain, long-term gain, which assumes what you're arguing about the long-term, what this will look like. Prices will go up for Americans in the short term, right?
They could. They don't have to.
And that's if they don't have to, you're arguing if businesses do not pass those on to those consumers.
Well, in the President Trump's first administration, prices didn't go up, so the businesses don't have to pass them on, or the producers in the other countries can eat the tariffs. And
Seleny is out front live outside the White House to begin our coverage. And Jeff, when we hear the president at the top of the show, he goes through country after country after country. They've got all these slides ready. What is so stunning from your reporting, though, seems to be that the actual plan, what those numbers were, came together very last minute for Trump.
Aaron, it was an extraordinary scene in the Rose Garden. You saw the president there looking at the chart, reading country by country, but it almost had the feel of a game show. At one point, he even threw out a red Make America Great Again hat into the crowd, which was packed with some union workers as well as members of the cabinet and lawmakers. But it did come together, we are told, really over the last several days. There were some dissenting voices inside his administration. Some wanted a 20% baseline tariff, if you will, across the board. He settled on 10%, but then had separate reciprocal tariffs for so many of these other countries. But when you look at that there, this is how some of the U.S. allies and adversaries alike learned that they were going to be on this list. They saw the president reading from this chart in the Rose Garden. But when you sort of step back and look at all of this, the question now is, the retaliatory tariffs that are likely to follow this are really sparking and causing alarm across the ag sector, the lumber sector, pharmaceuticals, and so many more. And when you also add up these, it's not just 34% for China, it's actually 54%. The Treasury Secretary was telling reporters earlier, because it's on top of the 20% already there for fentanyl. So the bottom line to all of this, it's the biggest gamble of this presidency. There's no doubt about it. It's a historic move. That is clear. Not since the Second World War has there been this type of a reordering of the global economy. But the bottom line is, what does not only the market do, but other countries do back to the U.S. But Aaron, one thing we noticed in the Rose Garden today, the cabinet was there, lawmakers were there. Elon Musk was not there. Of course, this came on the heels of that embarrassing defeat in Wisconsin last night. I can recall him being at virtually every other major announcement. This is the first one in the Rose Garden. No sign today of Elon Musk.
Obviously, what that is a harbinger of anything. All right, Jeff, thank you very much. I mean, it's incredible. And you think about all these.
mean, the European Union won't take chicken from America. They won't take lobsters from America. They hate our beef because our beef is beautiful and theirs is weak.
But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof. And I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot.